Hey everyone, and a really warm, friendly welcome back to Best English Podcast. It's Sophia here, and I'm genuinely thrilled you're choosing to spend some time with me today, tuning into our little English learning space. I always love our chats. So, let's talk about something really important in English communication. Something we all do every single day, whether we realize it or not. Sharing our thoughts, our beliefs, and yes, even our disagreements. Think about it. From deciding what to have for dinner with a friend, to discussing a project at work, or even just chatting about the news, our lives are full of moments where we need to say what's on our mind. It's how we connect, how we learn from each other, and how we get things done. But what happens when your thoughts are different from someone else's? How do you share your unique ideas without sounding rude or causing a problem? How do you make your voice heard respectfully, even when you have a different perspective? That's the challenge, right? Now, let's dive a little deeper into that. Have you ever been in one of those really engaging, interesting conversations in English? Maybe it's a casual team meeting at your job, or a relaxed gathering with new friends, or even a lively online group discussion about a topic you absolutely love, like a new book or a trending movie. And you're there, right? You understand exactly what everyone is saying. You're following every point perfectly, maybe even nodding along, feeling totally part of the flow. But then it happens. Someone turns to you, their eyes expectant, and asks, "What do you think?" Or, even more commonly, you have a brilliant idea, a different perspective, and you really want to say, "Well, I see your point, but I'm actually thinking." And suddenly, in that very moment, you feel this little flutter of nerves, a tiny bit of unsureness. Your mind might even go a bit blank for a second. You start to worry, will I say it correctly? Will my English sound clear? Oh no, what if I sound rude if I don't agree with them? How do I say this so it sounds natural and polite, like a native speaker would? You know your opinion, you know the words in your head, but actually getting them out smoothly, confidently, and respectfully feels like climbing a small mountain. It's like you have this wonderful, clear idea inside you, but finding just the right English words with the right tone to share it in a truly good, clear, and accepted way, well, that can feel really tricky, can't it? If that feeling hits home for you, and I truly believe it does for so many of us, then if you're genuinely ready to move beyond just understanding English to actively and confidently sharing your thoughts, yes, even when you have a totally different idea, then let me assure you, you are exactly where you need to be right now in this very moment. This isn't just another English lesson, sweet friend. This is about giving you the practical tools, the confidence-boosting phrases, and the essential understanding to truly participate, to make your unique voice heard, and to build those really strong, meaningful connections through polite and super effective communication. Don't even think about going anywhere. Seriously, stick with me through every single minute of this episode, because in today's episode 25, How to Express Your Opinion and Disagree. Politely in English, we're not just going to talk about why it's important to share your opinions. We're going to dive deep and give you simple, hands-on phrases, easy to understand examples drawn from everyday life, and fresh, clear ideas to help you express yourself powerfully and respectfully. We'll literally walk through how to easily navigate discussions, share your perspective, and even disagree, all while sounding perfectly natural and incredibly polite. You absolutely, positively won't want to miss any part of this deep dive into truly confident and impactful English conversation. You know, as I was getting everything ready for today's episode, my mind kept happily going back to our last chat. In episode 24, How to Think in English Naturally. Remember how much fun we had exploring that? We talked all about how to gently but powerfully train your brain to stop that automatic translating and really start thinking directly in English. We explored such cool and powerful ideas, like quietly mentally narrating your day, just talking to yourself in English about what you're doing, what you see. We also talked about learning language chunks, like those tricky phrasal verbs and idioms, but seeing them as single, ready-to-use ideas. And of course, we emphasized using active listening not just to understand, but to actively fuel your English brain with natural patterns. The messages and comments I got from so many of you after that episode were just amazing. And honestly, they truly showed me how much you all want to make real, lasting changes in your English journey. And here's the beautiful, logical connection, my friend. Once you start thinking in English more naturally, more smoothly, just like we practiced in episode 24, the next logical and super exciting step is to confidently express those English thoughts. It's like first you build that strong internal mental muscle for English, and then you learn how to use it gracefully and effectively in real conversations. You've been diligently training your internal English voice, and now it's the perfect time to let that voice be heard, clearly, politely, and powerfully, out in the world. It's your turn to shine. So, picking up right where we left off on our exciting English adventure, we're jumping straight into episode 25. How to express your opinion and disagree politely in English. This episode is completely focused on helping you master the wonderful art of sharing your views and gracefully handling those times when you have different ideas. We'll look at simple yet incredibly powerful phrases to clearly state what you think, and then, very importantly, how to disagree with someone respectfully, even when you feel quite strongly about your own point. This isn't just about adding new sentences to your vocabulary list. No, this is much bigger. It's about learning the unwritten social rules of English conversation, how to be both strong in your ideas and polite in your delivery, and how to make every single discussion an amazing opportunity to show off your growing English skills and confidence. So, if you're truly ready to speak up, to share your unique ideas, and to become an even more confident, engaging, and respected English speaker in any situation, then grab your favorite warm drink, get really comfortable, and let's start building those excellent English conversation habits together right now. I promise you're going to love what you learned today. Sharing your opinion, making your voice heard clearly. At the intermediate level, you've already built a fantastic foundation in English. You're understanding more, reading more, and getting your basic ideas across. That's a huge achievement, and you should be incredibly proud of how far you've come. But to truly connect with people, to show off your unique personality, and to participate fully in all sorts of conversations, whether it's a casual chat with friends or a more serious discussion at work, it often means sharing what you think. It means expressing your opinions. Now, I know this can feel a little tricky for us English learners. You might find yourself worrying about making a mistake, or even worse, sounding rude or too direct, especially if your native language has different ways of showing politeness and respect. But here's the absolute truth. Your opinion does matter, and learning to share it clearly and politely is one of the biggest, most exciting steps you can take to sounding more natural and feeling truly confident when you speak English. Let me tell you about Sarah, a super bright student from a charming small town in Georgia. She made a big move to attend a large, busy university in New York City. Sarah was brilliant at her studies, always getting good grades, but when it came to those lively group discussions in her classes, she often found herself staying surprisingly quiet. She had so many wonderful, smart ideas bubbling inside her, but when it was actually her turn to share them, she felt a little frozen. "I knew exactly what I wanted to say in my head," she told me, a bit sadly. "But I was so scared I'd say it wrong, or that I'd sound impolite if I didn't completely agree with someone. I just wanted to be able to jump into the conversation as easily as everyone else did." The key for Sarah, and this is so important for you too, is to really understand that expressing opinions is a perfectly normal and expected part of English conversation. And the great news is, there are lots of simple, polite, and effective ways to do it. Simple opinion phrases, your go-to for clarity. These are your absolute best friends for clearly stating what you think. They are easy to remember, easy to use, and always sound natural and accepted in English conversations. Try them out. I think that this is probably the most common and versatile phrase. You can use it in almost any situation. I believe that this sounds a little stronger than "I think," and is great for more serious topics or when you have a firm conviction. In my opinion, a very polite and clear way to introduce your viewpoint. I feel that perfect for when your opinion is based on emotion or a personal sense of right-wrong. Instead of letting her great ideas stay locked inside, Sarah started practicing with these phrases, first just in her head. She'd watch a news report on TV and mentally form a thought like, "I think that the new City Park initiative will be incredibly beneficial for local families because it provides much-needed green space." Or, if she read a thought-provoking article for class, she'd think, "I believe that this writer makes a really interesting and well-supported point about the economy." She started with these simple, internal thoughts and gradually built her confidence from there, letting them become her natural English voice. Add reasons and examples. Making your thoughts stronger. To make your opinion not just clear, but also stronger and more convincing, always try to add why you think or believe something. This shows that you've genuinely thought about your ideas and can support them, which makes your contributions much more valuable. I think that because the simplest and most direct way to give a reason. I believe that, since. Similar to because, often used when the reason is already somewhat known or implied. In my opinion, due to a slightly more formal way to introduce the cause or reason for your opinion. Sarah consciously moved from just saying, "I think it's a good idea," to something more complete like, "I think that online classes are a good idea because they give students a lot more flexibility to balance their studies with work or family commitments." Adding that "because" part made her thoughts not only clearer, but also more complete and persuasive, both when she was thinking silently and when she spoke aloud in discussions. Show your opinion is personal. Adding a touch of humility. Sometimes you want to share your thought, but also politely show that it's just your specific viewpoint, not a universal fact. This adds a nice touch of humility and makes your opinion easier for others to receive. Personally, I think emphasizes that it's your personal view. From my perspective, great for showing your unique viewpoint based on your experience. As far as I'm concerned, a common phrase for saying, "This is what I think about the situation." When she was talking about lighter topics, like her taste in movies or music, Sarah would think, Personally, I think comedies are the best way to relax after a long day because laughter is such great medicine. This simple addition helped her feel much more comfortable sharing her specific tastes without feeling like she was stating a rigid, unquestionable truth, making her interactions more relaxed and authentic. Sarah noticed a truly remarkable change. By consistently and consciously using these simple phrases, she started to feel much more comfortable and confident in sharing her opinions in her classes and with her new university friends. The old fear of saying something wrong or sounding awkward slowly melted away as she realized that these clear, simple opinion phrases were exactly the tools she needed. Remember, my dear friend, people genuinely want to hear what you think. These phrases simply give you the polite and natural English tools to share it effectively. Disagreeing politely. The delicate dance of respectful discussion. Learning to disagree without sounding rude or causing tension is truly a big and sometimes challenging step in English conversation. It's often where intermediate learners feel most uncomfortable, and I totally get why. In some languages and cultures, direct disagreement can be seen as very impolite or even confrontational. But in English-speaking cultures, it's very common and often even expected to disagree, especially in discussions or debates. The absolute key here is how you do it. The main goal is always to show respect for the other person's idea, even if you don't agree with it. This is what we call respectful disagreement, and it's a super valuable skill to master. Let's imagine Michael, an incredibly enthusiastic volunteer coordinator from Chicago, Illinois. Michael was fantastic at talking to people, rallying volunteers, and organizing successful community events. He was a real people person. But when new ideas came up in meetings and he happened to have a different approach or a strong concern, he found it incredibly hard to say no or offer another way without feeling like he was being unhelpful, critical, or even rude. He really wanted to be able to share his different ideas smoothly and constructively without creating any awkwardness. Here's how to master the art of disagreeing politely and make your conversations stronger, more productive, and more comfortable for everyone involved. Start with a softening phrase. Always lead with respect. This is perhaps the most important rule of polite disagreement in English. Never, ever just jump straight into, "You're wrong," or "I totally disagree." That can sound very aggressive and shut down the conversation immediately. Instead, always start by showing that you've genuinely heard and understood the other person's idea. This prepares them for a different viewpoint and signals that you respect them. "I understand your point, but..." A classic and very effective way to show you've listened before offering your own idea. "I see what you mean, however." Similar to, "I understand," a polite way to introduce a contrasting idea. That's a good point, though. Acknowledges their idea's value before presenting a different perspective. "I hear what you're saying, and..." This is great because it sounds very empathetic, showing you've truly taken in their words. In a particularly important meeting where someone suggested a very expensive way to raise money for a community project, Michael felt a strong need to offer a more budget-friendly idea. He thought to himself, "I understand your point. That would certainly raise a lot of money, but I actually think we need to consider something much more affordable and accessible for our community members." This thoughtful opening gently opened the door for his alternative idea without making the other person feel attacked or wrong. State your disagreement. Politely. Be clear. Be kind. After you've used your softening phrase, you can then clearly but gently express your different view. Remember, the goal is clarity with kindness. I respectfully disagree. A very direct but formal and polite way to state your position. I'm not sure I completely agree with that. A softer, more common way to express partial or full disagreement. My view is a little different. A gentle way to present your alternative perspective. I see it a bit differently. Similar to, my view is different, implying a different angle or interpretation. After carefully listening to a detailed plan for a volunteer event that he didn't think would work well for his team of volunteers, Michael would think, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not sure I completely agree with that specific approach for our team, because this allowed him to share his concern or different idea in a respectful way, ensuring his voice was heard without causing any offense. Explain your reason clearly. The why is everything always. Always follow your disagreement with a clear and concise reason why you see things differently. This is crucial for productive discussion. It shows you're not just being difficult, you have a logical basis for your viewpoint. Because I think the most straightforward way to provide your reasoning. Since it might lead to useful when you're pointing out a potential negative consequence of their idea. Due to these reasons. A slightly more formal way to introduce multiple reasons. When discussing how to organize a large charity fun run and a colleague suggested a very early start time, Michael would say, I see what you mean about starting early to avoid the heat. However, I respectfully disagree with that timing because many of our key volunteers rely on public transport, which doesn't start running that early. This would make it very difficult for them to arrive on time. This provided a clear, practical, and logical reason for his disagreement, making his point much more understandable and acceptable. Offer an alternative. Be part of the solution. Instead of just saying no or simply disagreeing, try your best to offer a different, constructive solution or an alternative idea. This powerfully shows that you're being helpful and solution-oriented, not just negative or critical. What if we considered instead invites collaboration and new ideas? Perhaps another option would be suggests a new possibility gently. I was thinking we could try. Shares your idea as a suggestion. We might explore the option of more formal, good for professional settings. Instead of just disagreeing about the early start time for the charity run, Michael would add, perhaps another option would be to start an hour later, say at 8 a.m., which would allow more volunteers to join us and still avoid the worst of the afternoon heat. This made his disagreement a positive suggestion for improvement, showing he was working with the team. Michael, being a dedicated learner, practiced these phrases constantly, first in his head for days, imagining different scenarios with different people. When real conversations happened, he found himself naturally and easily using these polite ways to disagree. He noticed a wonderful shift. People listened to his ideas more intently, even when his views were different, because he consistently showed respect and offered constructive input. Remember, disagreement in English is often seen as a healthy way to explore ideas more deeply and find the best solution, not as a personal attack, as long as you wrap it in polite and thoughtful language, adding strength to your arguments, making your points resonate. Once you're feeling more comfortable expressing your opinions and gracefully disagreeing, the next exciting step is to add even more depth, impact, and strength to your arguments. This means going beyond simple statements and using a wider, more sophisticated range of words and phrases. This will help you show exactly how strongly you feel, to thoughtfully acknowledge others' points, and to present your own ideas with greater precision and conviction. This truly helps you sound more fluent, more natural, and more persuasive in those deeper, more important discussions. Let's meet Anna, a brilliant software engineer from Seattle, Washington. Anna was excellent at clearly explaining complex technical problems in English to her team. But when she had to discuss different possible solutions or persuade her team to adopt a brand new software strategy she believed in, her language sometimes felt a bit too simple, lacking the precise words needed to convey her deep conviction or the careful consideration she had already put into her ideas. She really wanted her arguments to be more powerful, more nuanced, and ultimately more convincing. Here's how to add that extra layer of nuance and strength to your English arguments, making them truly resonate. Using adverbs to adjust your opinion's strength. The power of subtle control. Adverbs are wonderful little words that can subtly change how strong or how gentle your opinion sounds. They give you amazing control over the tone of your message. To soften your opinion when you're not 100% certain or you want to be very polite. I slightly disagree. I'm personally inclined to think. I'd gently suggest. It seems to me that. To strengthen your opinion when you feel very sure or passionate about something. I strongly believe. I definitely think. I'm absolutely convinced that. It's clear to me that. Instead of simply saying, I disagree in a team meeting, Anna learned to think and say things like, I slightly disagree with that approach for now, because I think we need more data. Or, when she felt very confident, I strongly believe we should go with this solution since it's proven to be more scalable and efficient in similar projects. This conscious use of adverbs made her opinions sound much more precise and impactful, conveying her exact level of certainty. Acknowledging other points, building bridges, not walls. This is a really important social skill in English discussions. Showing that you've listened carefully and truly understood the other person's idea makes your own argument much more respected, even if you don't fully agree with them. It builds trust and shows you're open-minded. While I understand your point about X, I also think Y. I can see why you feel that way. However, my concern is Z. You raise a good point regarding A, but have we considered B? I appreciate your perspective on this, but I'm looking at it from a different angle. In a technical debate about different project timelines, when a colleague pushed for a very fast launch, Anna would say, while I understand your point about needing to launch quickly to capture market share, I also think we need to prioritize more time for thorough testing to avoid potential bugs and ensure a stable user experience in the long run. This showed she had carefully considered their view before politely presenting her own, more cautious perspective. Phrases for offering. Alternatives or solutions. Be constructive. Move beyond just disagreeing to actively offering a positive path forward. This powerfully shows that you're being helpful, collaborative, and solution-oriented rather than just negative or critical. Perhaps an alternative could be, what if we considered doing it this way instead? My suggestion would be we might explore the option of, could we perhaps combine your idea with? Instead of just saying a proposed software feature was too complicated, Anna would say, perhaps an alternative could be to simplify the user interface in the first release, which might significantly improve initial adoption and user satisfaction. This made her sound constructive and like a valuable problem solver. Using conditional language for suggestions. Inviting discussion. This is a fantastic way to soften your suggestions and make them sound less like demands or strict requirements. It invites discussion and collaboration rather than forcing a point. It might be beneficial if we could consider, it would be great if, I was wondering if we should. When proposing a new, more efficient coding method, Anna would suggest, it might be beneficial if we adopted this new framework for future developments, especially given its proven efficiency in similar projects. This invited discussion and curious questions from her team, rather than stating a rigid plan, making her a more approachable and effective leader in discussions. Anna dedicated time to practicing these phrases, both in her quiet mental self-talk and in simulated conversations with her language exchange partner. She found that by consistently using more nuanced and thoughtful language, her arguments in team meetings became much more persuasive, professional, and well-received. Her colleagues listened more intently and respected her opinions even more, because she wasn't just stating an opinion, she was building a well-reasoned, collaborative case directly in English, truly showing her mastery of the language in a professional setting. Listening in debates, the secret weapon for smart responses. My dear friends, we talked about active listening in episode 23 to help you understand better, and again in episode 24 to really fuel your English thinking. Now, when it comes to expressing opinions and especially disagreeing, active listening becomes even more incredibly important. Think about it. You simply cannot truly disagree politely or contribute thoughtfully and effectively if you haven't genuinely and deeply understood the other person's perspective, right? Active listening in a debate or discussion means you are listening with the pure intention to understand, not just listening while waiting for your turn to reply. This crucial skill gives your English brain the exact, precise information it needs to form a smart, polite, effective, and truly relevant response in English. It's your secret weapon for sounding articulate and thoughtful. Let's think about David, a truly passionate community organizer from San Francisco, California. David cared deeply about his city and its people. But sometimes, in lively community meetings, he'd get so eager and excited to share his own brilliant ideas that he might accidentally interrupt someone or miss a crucial detail of what another person was saying. He really wanted to be a more effective, respected, and influential speaker in these important community discussions. Here's how to sharpen your active listening skills specifically for discussions and debates, making you a master communicator. Listen to understand, not just to reply, the core mindset. This is the fundamental shift you need to make. When someone else is speaking, your only job at that moment is to fully and completely understand their message. Consciously stop yourself from forming your reply until they have entirely finished their point. Before speaking, David would intentionally take a deep breath and quietly remind himself, just listen, truly listen. He would make a conscious effort to hear the person's complete thought, from beginning to end, before he even started planning his own response. This simple, mindful pause helped him avoid interrupting and allowed him to truly absorb and process all the incoming information in English. Show you're listening actively, give verbal cues. These phrases are like little signals that let the other person know you're paying close attention and genuinely trying to understand their viewpoint. They encourage the speaker and confirm your engagement. I hear what you're saying. So, if I understand correctly, your main point is, you're suggesting that, then paraphrase their point. That's an interesting perspective. I see what you mean. Ah, I get it now. In a discussion about a new city park rule, when someone suggested closing the park earlier to save money, David might say, "So, if I understand correctly, your main point is that closing the park earlier would save money on security and therefore improve safety for residents in that area." This not only showed he was listening intently, but also gave him a brief moment to process their idea in English before forming his own thoughtful response. Resist the urge to interrupt. Patience is a virtue. In many cultures, interrupting can be seen as very rude and disrespectful. In English, it generally breaks the flow of conversation, makes you seem impatient, and shows a lack of respect for the speaker. Practice patiently waiting until the speaker has fully finished their thought, even if you feel like you know exactly what they're going to say. David would intentionally make direct eye contact and nod slightly while others spoke, simple gestures that signaled he was engaged and listening. If he felt that strong urge to interrupt, he would quietly count to 3 or even 5 in his head. This very simple trick, this mental pause, truly helped him wait patiently for his turn, making him seem much more thoughtful and considerate. Ask clarifying questions in English. Don't be afraid to ask. If you're ever unsure about a point someone has made, don't just guess or ignore it. Ask a question to get more clarity. This shows your engagement, your interest, and most importantly, it helps you avoid misunderstanding, which is absolutely vital before you agree or disagree. Could you explain a bit more what you mean by that? When you say X, are you referring to Y specifically? Could you give an example of what you mean, perhaps? I'm not quite clear on that point. Could you elaborate? In a discussion about streamlining resources for an upcoming event, if David wasn't entirely sure what that meant, he might politely ask, "Could you explain what you mean by streamlining resources? Are we primarily talking about saving money, or are we looking for new, more efficient ways to do things?" This ensured he fully understood the precise meaning before he formed his own informed opinion or offered a suggestion. David consistently worked on these active listening techniques, making them a conscious habit. He found that not only did he understand other people's ideas much more deeply and quickly, but his own responses became significantly more thoughtful, relevant, and incredibly well received by everyone in the room. He became known as someone who truly listened, which made his own opinions and suggestions carry so much more weight and respect in discussions. Remember, my friend, active listening is the silent but incredibly powerful engine behind truly effective English communication. It's where real influence begins. Common mistakes to avoid: navigating the pitfalls of discussion. Even with all the right phrases and the best intentions, it's totally easy to fall into some common traps when you're expressing opinions or disagreeing in English. Being aware of these common pitfalls will be your superpower, helping you avoid them and ensuring your communication remains polite, clear, and effective. Remember, the ultimate goal is always to share your thoughts respectfully and constructively, not to win an argument at all costs or to sound aggressive. We want to build understanding, not create conflict. Let's think about Maria, a passionate and incredibly creative chef from San Antonio, Texas. Maria was bursting with fantastic new menu ideas and loved trying to pitch them to her restaurant owner. She had brilliant culinary visions. But sometimes her sheer excitement and passion led her to be a little too direct or to make very broad statements without enough explanation or softening, which unfortunately sometimes made it harder for the owner to fully appreciate her wonderful concepts. She just wanted to be heard and understood clearly. Here are some common mistakes to watch out for and how to gently steer clear of them. Being too direct or abrupt without softeners. The blunt trap. Jumping straight into phrases like, "that's wrong," or "I don't like that idea at all," can sound very rude or even confrontational in English conversation. It often makes the other person feel defensive immediately. Maria's mistake. Your idea for the new clam chowder soup is bad. Nobody will buy it. This is far too direct and dismissive. Correction. I understand your vision for the new clam chowder, but I'm not sure it would appeal to our current customer base because it's a very strong and perhaps too unique flavor for our regulars. This is much softer, acknowledges their effort, and explains why you have a different view. Always start with a softening phrase, as we discussed earlier. It's like putting a little cushion around your words. It signals respect for the other person, even when you have a different idea. Using generalizations without support, the empty statement. Trap. Making big, broad statements without providing any reasons, examples, or evidence can make your opinion sound weak, uninformed, or just like you're complaining. People want to know why you think what you think. Maria's mistake. Our customers don't like spicy food at all. Never. This is too general and absolute. Correction. I've noticed from recent feedback forms and some guest comments that a significant portion of our customers prefer milder flavors. So, perhaps for this new dish, we could offer a less spicy option or a spice on the side choice. This provides support based on observation and a helpful suggestion. Always follow your opinion with a because or a since, and give a brief, clear reason, an example, or some relevant observation. Getting too emotional or defensive, the heated argument. Trap. When discussions become a bit heated or you feel challenged, it's very easy to let your emotions take over. This can make you sound aggressive, frustrated, or defensive, and it will often shut down the conversation completely. Maria's mistake. You always ignore my suggestions. This is ridiculous. What's the point? This is highly emotional and sounds accusatory, making the other person defensive. Correction. I feel that this particular dish has a lot of potential and could be a great addition to the menu. I'd really like to discuss how we might adjust it slightly to fit the current menu best. This focuses on the idea, stays calm, and invites collaboration. Practice staying calm and focusing on the ideas themselves, not personal feelings or past frustrations. If you feel yourself getting emotional, take a deep breath and perhaps politely say, "Let me think about that for a moment," or "I need a moment to consider this." Translating directly from your native language. The lost in translation. Trap. Your native language might have very direct ways of expressing opinions or disagreement that, when translated word for word into English, can sound strange, abrupt, or even rude. English often uses more indirectness for politeness. Maria's mistake, literally translating a direct no from her native language, for example, "No, that is not how we do it. Impossible." Correction. I appreciate that idea, but I think a different approach might work better for our kitchen flow and overall efficiency right now. This is much more indirect, softer, and polite in English. This is where your episode 24, Practice of Thinking Directly in English, becomes so incredibly important. Trust the English patterns and polite phrases you're learning. Don't rely on word-for-word translation. Interrupting others, the rude interruption. Trap. As we've covered, interrupting someone while they are speaking is generally seen as a lack of respect and breaks the natural flow of conversation. It often makes the speaker feel unheard. Maria's mistake, cutting someone off mid-sentence to immediately share her own brilliant idea. Correction, waiting for a natural pause in the conversation or until the speaker clearly finishes their thought before you start to speak. Patience is absolutely key here. Show you value what the other person is saying by letting them finish completely. Maria, being a truly dedicated chef and learner, worked hard to manage her passion and excitement with these polite English strategies. By consciously avoiding these common mistakes, she noticed that her innovative ideas were received much, much more positively by the restaurant owner and her colleagues. She became a far more effective, respected, and influential communicator in her professional environment. Becoming aware of these common traps is the first, most important step to avoiding them and building your conversational mastery. All right, my wonderful friends, we've gone over so much valuable ground today in episode 25. How to express your opinion and disagree politely in English here on Best English Podcast. We truly dived deep into how important it is to share your voice, how to do it clearly and confidently, and how to navigate those times when you have different opinions, all with grace and respect. To quickly go over the strong, helpful points we talked about today, these are the main parts of your future: more confident, more fluent self. Your opinion matters. Remember those simple phrases like, "I think that," or "in my opinion." Start using them confidently to share your views, just like Sarah learned to do in her university classes, making her voice heard. Disagree with respect. You've now mastered the art of polite disagreement. Always start with softening phrases like, "I understand your point, but," or "I see what you mean, however." Before you share your different view, following Michael's example, who turned potential conflicts into productive discussions. Add depth to your arguments. We learned to use adverbs and specific phrases to show exactly how strongly you feel, to acknowledge others' valid points, and to offer solutions, making your arguments much more powerful and incredibly convincing, just like Anna did in her engineering team meetings. Active listening is key. Practice listening to truly understand, not just to reply. Remember those phrases that show you're engaged, and always avoid interrupting. Just like David improved his community discussions, becoming a respected voice. Avoid common traps. Now you're aware of common mistakes, like being too direct, using generalizations without support, getting overly emotional, or translating directly word for word. This knowledge will keep your communication clear and respectful, as Maria learned in her bustling kitchen. In all the personal stories we shared today, whether it was Sarah finding her confident voice in new surroundings, Michael mastering polite disagreement in professional settings, Anna building stronger and more persuasive arguments, David becoming an exemplary active listener, or Maria learning to avoid those tricky common mistakes, there's one crystal clear, strong message. They all took very important, brave steps to actively practice and make their English better, especially focusing on how they shared their thoughts and feelings, even when they felt unsure or a little nervous. And that, my friends, is the most important lesson for you too. It's completely normal to feel a little worried, a little nervous when trying new things in a language. But the more you try, the more you speak, the more you refine your listening, and very importantly, the more you practice thinking and expressing yourself clearly and politely in English, the better you'll get. It will become easier, more automatic, and more joyful to use English because you'll get wonderfully used to the natural rhythm, tone, and flow of the language. Your English brain will literally tune in more effectively, making communication feel seamless, authentic, and truly your own voice. I truly hope this episode 25, How to Express Your Opinion and Disagree Politely in English, has inspired you to take those brave, regular steps every single day to confidently share your thoughts. Remember, learning English is a beautiful, wonderful, and incredibly rewarding journey, not a crazy, stressful race. Every little moment you spend thinking, listening, and speaking in English, every new phrase you learn, every single time you try to explain something, even if it's just practicing a sentence in your head, you are making amazing, real progress. So, go out there and practice, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Doing it often, with consistency, is what truly makes you speak English well for a long, long time. Before we sign off today, I want to give you a very specific and truly actionable challenge to put what you've learned today into practice for episode 25, Intermediate English Practice. This is your moment to make a real difference in your English conversation skills this week. Practice expressing your opinion. This week, I challenge you to choose 3 different topics you genuinely feel strongly about. Maybe it's your favorite movie, a recent local news story, or a new product you tried. For each topic, try to express your opinion and give one simple reason why. You can do this in your quiet inner talk, or even better, try it aloud with a friend, family member, or language partner. Start with phrases like, I think that, because. Practice polite disagreement. If you find yourself in a real conversation this week where you don't fully agree with someone, I encourage you to bravely try to use one softening phrase from today's episode. I understand your point, but, or, I see what you mean, however, before you share your different perspective. Remember, just try one time. It's all about small steps. Your task this week, my friend, is to thoughtfully integrate these new elements into your daily routine. Remember, it's about doing small, regular, and intentional things that ultimately lead to big, amazing results in training your English brain and boosting your conversational confidence. If you're feeling brave and want to be part of our amazing supportive learning group, please come over to the comments section on our YouTube channel. Tell us which challenge you tried and what you noticed about sharing your opinion or disagreeing politely. We absolutely love to see your specific progress and learn from what you experience. Your success truly helps and inspires us all. Thank you so much for joining me on Best English Podcast today. If you found this episode helpful and inspiring, please do me a very big favor. Click that like button right now. It truly helps us know this content is valuable to you and helps more learners discover us. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Best English Podcast wherever you listen to talks, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or right here on YouTube. Also, please share this episode with a friend who is also learning English, because sharing knowledge helps us all grow stronger and more fluent together. And if you have a moment, giving us a rating and a review really helps our community grow and reach more hardworking learners just like you. And it helps us make even better content for you. Until next time, keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep learning and enjoying the process. I'm Sophia, and I'll talk to you all very soon.